Hello and welcome to StudyIQ. In this lecture, we will discuss about the 15th Finance Commission of India. 15th Finance Commission. So before we move on to the 15th Finance Commission, let us see what are the constitutional provisions of the Finance Commission in India. So Finance Commission constitutional provisions. The Finance Commission is established by the President of India. It means that the Finance Commission is appointed by the President of India. And the first Finance Commission was established in the year 1951. So, first Finance Commission in the year 1951. Again, Article 280 of the Indian Constitution deals with the Finance Commission. Article which deals with Finance Commission is Article 280. So, according to the Article 280 of the Indian Constitution, the President of India shall appoint a Finance Commission every 5 years. So, Finance Commission is appointed for 5 years. So the President has to constitute a Finance Commission every 5 years. The Commission will comprise of one chairman and 4 other members. So one chairman and 4 other members. So at present, N.K. Singh is the chairman of the Finance Commission. That is a 15th Finance Commission. So 15th Finance Commission chairman is N.K. Singh. And you should remember this name because the name of the Finance Commission chairman can be asked in competitive exams, especially in multiple choice questions. There is a possibility that the name can be asked. So, if you look at some competitive exams like the NABARD or the RBI or any bank exam, you will see that the names of important persons are important. And Finance Commission is an important constitutional body, and therefore, you should remember the name of the present Finance Commission chairman. So N.K. Singh is the present Finance Commission chairman. He is the chairman of the 15th Finance Commission of India. Now let us see what are the functions of Finance Commission. Functions. The Finance Commission has 2 specific functions, or it has to deal with 2 specific matters, and the Commission also has to deal with any matter that is referred by the President of India with regard to the finance. So, if in the interest of sound finance, if the President put forward any matter before the Commission is liable to take care of it. So, specifically there are 2 matters or 2 functions for the Commission, and you should remember here that any matter that is put forward by the President which is in the interest of sound finance of the country is also under the Finance Commission, or it is the responsibility of the Finance Commission to look into it. So now let us see what are the 2 specific matters. The first one, how is the net proceeds of tax be distributed between the center and the states? So tax proceeds, how this should be shared between the state and the center, union and the states. Secondly, the Finance Commission is also responsible for bringing out principles by which the grants in aid are provided to states from the Consolidated Fund of India. Secondly, it is responsible for bringing in principles by which grants in aid shall be given to the states from the Consolidated Fund of India. So these are the 2 specific matters into which the Finance Commission should look into, and any matter referred by the President in the interest of sound finance in the country. Now let us see what is the relevance of the Finance Commission. The Finance Commission looks into the financial relation between the center and the states. Center and the states financial relations. India has a federal structure, and Finance Commission is responsible to look into the financial relation between the center and the states in the form of sharing of taxes, or in determining the principles by which grants in aid shall be provided, etc. Again, coming to Article 281, the President shall put all the matters or all the recommendations made by the Finance Commission before the Parliament. So, the President will put forward the recommendations of the Commission before the Parliament as per the Constitution. Now, we have seen a briefing about the Finance Commission in general. Now, let us specifically look into the 15th Finance Commission. So, as we have already said, the 15th Finance Commission is headed by or chaired by N.K. Singh. So, as we said, Finance Commission is established for 5 years, and the 15th Finance Commission is established for the fiscal year starting from 2020 April 1st. So, Let us see what are the main tasks of this 15th Finance Commission. The first main task of this Finance Commission is to strengthen cooperative federalism. What is meant by cooperative federalism? What is federalism? Federalism means there will be union and states. So there is a federal structure. And what is meant by cooperative federalism? Cooperative federalism refers to the idea of cooperation between the union and the states. So there should be a cooperation or mutual understanding between the union and different states. So the Finance Commission is held with the responsibility of strengthening cooperative federalism, which means that the Finance Commission shall give the recommendation which will strengthen the relation between the union and the states in matters of finance. So this is the first main responsibility of the 15th Finance Commission. Second one, to improve the quality of public spending. Improve the quality of public spending. What is meant by public spending? Public spending means the government spending or what the government spends for the public. This refers to the government expenditure on the general public of a country. So what is meant by improving the quality of the public spending? It means that whatever the government is spending on the public, it should be able to prove more results, or it should be able to provide more results or outcome. For example, if government is spending on the education or health, so if the quality of the spending has to be high, there should be reasonable increase in school enrollment rates, or in case of health, people should benefit out of the government expenditure. So this means if the quality of the public spending has to increase, people should benefit. There should be outcomes reflected in terms of development, in terms of growth, in terms of output, in terms of standard of living, quality of life, etc. On various parameters, there should be outcomes or results shown. So second task is to improve the quality of public spending. The third main task of the Finance Commission is to help protect the fiscal stability. Protect fiscal stability. So what is meant by fiscal stability? Fiscal stability means lesser fiscal deficit. What is fiscal deficit? So when the expenditure is more than the revenue, what happens? There will be deficit, and this is called the fiscal deficit. So stabilizing the fiscal deficit is another task of the Finance Commission. Under protecting the fiscal stability, one main task of the Finance Commission is to incentivize states. Incentivize states. So for what is this incentive given? So this incentive is given to those states which have abided by the fiscal discipline norms. So fiscal discipline norms. And how is this fiscal discipline norms calculated? In terms of FRBMA 2003. What is FRBMA? Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act 2003. So under the FRBMA, if the states have abided by the fiscal discipline norms, the responsibility of the Finance Commission is to incentivize those states or provide those states with some incentives. And the 15th Finance Commission has become an important current affair. There was a news related to the 15th Finance Commission. Let us see what was the current affair. So there was a criticism against the 15th Finance Commission that the terms of reference of this 15th Finance Commission is against the progressive states. So progressive states means well-performing states. So the terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission is against the progressive states or well-doing states. This was the criticism. So let us see it in detail. So the first criticism was that the terms of reference mentioned in the 15th Finance Commission is against the federal structure that is mentioned in the Constitution. So federal structure, we have already seen what is a federal structure, and we have also seen the idea of cooperative federalism. So one criticism was that this terms of reference of the 15th Finance Commission is against the federal structure of the Constitution. Secondly, this was also criticized that the terms of reference or the terms of reference in the 15th Finance Commission will lead to revenue loss for well-performing states. Revenue loss for performing states. Thirdly, the terms of reference in the Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission recommends to use 2011 census data. census data to calculate population. So previously it was 1971 census, and now the terms of reference recommends 2011 census to be used in the calculation of population. So why is this important? Why is this issue important? Because it is based on the population that the union revenue is given. So the union tax revenue is given based on the population, and the terms of reference recommends 2011 census to be used. Earlier it was 1971. So now let us see what is wrong with the 2011 census. So what happened with the prosperous states or well-performing states is that they have better fertility controls were used in those states. So better fertility controls. So better fertility controls were used in well-performing or progressive states. So as a result of fertility controls, the population in those states have come down. So if 2011 census will be used, the population in those states will be less, and there will be lesser devolution of central funds. As the population is less in those states, there will be lesser devolution of funds to those states. So if the census data of 1971 will be used, they will get more funds because the population is also high. So because of better fertility controls adopted in progressive states or well-performing states, the population rate has come down, and if 2011 census is used, this will lead to lesser devolution of central funds to those states. So this is the criticism. So because of all these criticisms, what has happened is that a meeting of all these well-performing states were held, especially the southern states, and they have decided to finalize a memorandum which will be submitted to either the president or to the finance commission or president. So they have decided to submit a memorandum. And what is this memorandum all about? The memorandum is all about changing the terms of reference in the finance commission. So as a response to this, the finance minister Arun Jaitley replied that there is no inherent bias in the terms of reference. So this is not purposefully done to harm any states. So this was the reply given by the finance minister. And the finance commission itself came with some reply, and let us see what was the finance commission's view. So the finance commission said that in the terms of reference itself, there is a provision for rewarding states which were successful in either reducing or eliminating expenditure incurred on population schemes, which means that the finance commission said that in the terms of reference itself, there is a provision for rewarding state which has better implemented the fertility control measures. So following all these criticisms, the finance commission constituted a panel. So this panel is an expert panel to give recommendations on the terms of reference. So all the criticisms are based on the terms of reference, or criticisms are for terms of reference. So the finance commission itself constituted an expert panel which would give recommendations on the terms of reference of this commission. Let us see what are the role and functions of this expert panel. The first responsibility of this expert panel is to give advice to the finance commission on any issue or subject which is related to the terms of reference. So any subject or issue related to terms of reference. So the panel can give advice. So the panel will give advice to the finance commission with regard to any subject or issue of the terms of reference. The second responsibility or task of this expert panel is to assist the finance commission. Assist for what? For the preparation of any paper or research study. And what type of paper or research study? Any paper or research study which would help the finance commission to understand the issues related to the terms of reference. So for improving the terms of reference. Thirdly, this expert panel is also responsible for suggesting to the finance commission any recommendation to improve the ambit of the commission, means the scope of operation of the finance commission, and also to seek best national and international practices. So it means to improve the finance commission's functions. So these are the main duties of the expert panel which was appointed by the finance commission. So you should understand that this expert panel was exclusively appointed to give recommendations with regard to the terms of reference because of all the criticisms that were there with regard to the terms of reference.